Hello and welcome to Meanwhile in the Falklands for the third time within like 5 minutes.
Right, sorry listener. This is the third time we have started this podcast.
Minutes.
We've just had to have a big lecture. I've got to give everyone a big lecture on finding the funny. But anyway, we're back. It's number 98. I'm Paula.
And I'm Steve.
And I'm Connie.
Yes, so we're sitting here in the sitting room for the first time in weeks.
Yes, we're no longer on the bed.
We're no longer sitting on the bed.
I hope we don't get bowled out before we get to 100.
Oh my God. No one's going to get that joke. So we're on number 98 podcast, if you're with us. If you're still listening, you might have just switched off and gone, right, that's it.
Dad's losing it.
Dad's losing it. So, Falkland Islands don't top this one. The Falkland Islands Cricket Club are undefeated in Jamaica because they've actually played in Jamaica.
Yes.
And remain undefeated.
We do.
For the reason you have to listen back at other podcasts, and that's where we're going to leave that one.
Okay, good.
And next subject.
So I have a list here. So we're not on the bed anymore. We are in the sitting room. So it's not as... I like that bed, actually. It's because of the bed knobs and broomsticks thing, I think.
Yes, we can't travel anywhere on the sofa.
No, it's very true. Oh, though... Right, so somebody's tagged me. I don't like these kind of things usually, but I like this one. This is a whole book thing. You know, books that have influenced you. And it's totally down my street. But when you were younger, did you read the Enid Blyton books, like The Wishing Chair and The Faraway Tree and all that?
No.
Oh, did you not?
No, I was a Lord of the Rings,
What,
Hobbit.
even when you were little? Little? Were you
I
reading...
wasn't really a big reader when I was little. I remember my daddy, I think my parents were a bit worried I was going to be illiterate. And my dad started bringing home comics, and particularly the Commando little booklets.
Oh, those little ones, yeah.
Which were a bit more wordy, and that's how I got into reading, to be honest.
Were they the cartoony ones, like the graphic novels?
but they were the Commando books. They were a bit more than comic because they was I don't know, smaller than the A4 sort of comic, and they were a bit thicker and they had longer stories. But yeah, no, I was really into them, and that's really how I got into reading. I guess.
I do like graphic novels, but my problem with graphic novels is I've seen people try and give them to people who are not confident readers as an alternative, but all the writing is in capital letters, so you're not actually reading like things. What kind of things do you remember reading when you were little, Connie?
The fairy books.
Oh my goodness, I remember the fairy books.
The Rainbow Fairy books. We had, I think, all of them in the end.
Well, Hazel collected them, and then I don't know what she then went on to, but then for some reason I got to all of them. I just kept them in my bookshelf, and I only read like the actual Rainbow series, never read like any of the others.
Because there was things like Pup Idol and The Magic Kitten and all that. I mean, it was... I'm sorry, listener, if you're into that kind of thing, then that's fine. But for me, I thought it was absolutely drivel. Absolute drivel.
I remember having to read those in bed to the girls when they were teeny tiny.
Yes, and what was it? Katie and Rachel, who'd met the fairies. So, spoiler alert, listener. So, the Rainbow Fairies...
the whole story now.
There was Rainbow Fairies, Jewel Fairies and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness, there was...
So these two human girls called Katie and Rachel, who had found these fairies and could see them and could be made into small fairies and help them out in the fairy kingdom.
Yeah, and they always bumped into Jack Frost.
Jack Frost, who was actually... Well, he was a serial offender, really, wasn't he? And they should have just locked him up and thrown away the key, and then everything would have been fine.
Yeah, but it's magical, Mum. He can get out.
He can get out. I must have blocked that from my memory anyway. So it's been a bit of a nostalgic week, actually, because somebody on Twitter had posted a photograph of a pudding. It was chocolate crunch and pink sauce.
Oh my goodness.
And said...
Favourite pudding.
Who remembers having this at school?
Me.
Hand shot up. Who remembers having this at school? I think mainly the 70s, I think, probably. But did you have it? I don't remember.
I remember that one of my favourite moments, because I mean it was a big I don't know why school meals just went downhill, but they did. But I don't know, when I went to school at 5 up till I was about 15, I think. So, I remember school meals with a great fondness.
Yeah.
Great fondness, because they were just fantastic. And then I remember, like, when I was in the sixth one, they introduced pizza and chips, and it was just rubbish. It was just beans and and they kowtowed to unhealthy food, really.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely. But chocolate crunch and pink sauce, oh my goodness, was.
I don't remember. The only pudding I remember having at school, and it's obviously primary school, was semolina. And I remember one, and it was absolutely delicious, clearly made on the premises. And I remember that on our lunch table we had twins, and I can't remember what their names are. And we couldn't tell they were identical twins. We couldn't tell the difference between them, so we called them both twin. And there was only one girl in our whole class called Donna who could tell the difference between the two of them. And one of the twins had been ill, and when the semolina came round on our table, he said, "Oh, can I take some for my brother, because it's his favourite?" And that's the only thing I remember about school dinners. Do you remember school dinners?
I didn't. I only had school dinners once. All the rest of the times I had packed lunches, which we had. The hall was split, so one side would be all the people who had school dinners, and they had either the red band or the green band, depending whether they were a carnivore or a vegetarian. And then the other half was all the people who bought packed lunches. If you ate your packed lunch, when you finished, as you walked out, a lunch lady would have to look in your packed lunch to see if you've eaten it all.
That's
and
really
if you
sad.
hadn't, they would send you back to the table to eat it.
Aww.
So I remember all the time waiting for them to be at the top of the hall so I could just run.
Aww. See, I don't think it's right to force children to eat.
No.
And I used to help out so I worked at a primary school, and at lunchtimes I used to be one of the lunch ladies for the reception class. And we had this little boy who obviously had not yet turned 5. He was only little. And his mum would give him 4 little wholemeal bread sandwiches and a yoghurt and a piece of fruit and something else. And he had loads. He was only a little lad. It took him 45 minutes just to eat his blimmin' sandwiches. And in the end we had to say to her, "Look, can you cut down his sandwiches?" Because the poor lad just really struggled, didn't have any lunchtime to play or anything because he was too busy eating his sandwiches.
Yeah,
Poor thing.
I must admit, I don't remember any of that from school, because I remember that everybody went into school meals wanting to eat them.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to have people standing at the exit making sure everybody.
No, but this was packed lunches. This is what your parents have made
I
you
suppose
eat.
so.
Yeah.
I remember there was the packed lunch brigade, but oh my goodness, I mean, fortunately, one of my best mates in the UK, his mom was a dinner lady in the 70s.
Yeah.
And knows the recipe
Ooh.
for chocolate crunch. In fact,
we have the recipe.
Here's a story list there. I remember years and years ago, I'd left the area and I was driving through, and I thought I'd just pop in, and he was still with his parents at the time. And I popped in, and he wasn't back. So I quickly phoned him and I said, how long are you going to be until you get back? And he said, "Oh, probably 45 minutes. I said, "Oh, it's all right. I'll hang around and I'll talk to your mum and dad." Anyway, in that 45 minutes, his mum knocked up a batch of chocolate crunch and made pink sauce as well.
Bless her.
And when he walked in through the door, back from work, I was sitting at the dining room table eating a huge bowl of, I think I had 3 pieces of chocolate crunch and an absolute, fountain of pink sauce. And he just said, "My mum never does this for me." I said, "Well, it's fantastic, mate.
You're special.
I'm special."
You're special. I went to an all-girls school, and I don't remember much about the lunches, but I do remember we went through a stage where they had suspected that there was a girl who was being sick in the day. And so what they did was we had to, when we went into the lunch hall, you had to show, there was a teacher, and you had to show them what food you'd got on your plate. and they ticked you off to say yes, you had eaten, and then when you came back, you had to show them, you know, how much you'd eaten and stuff. Oh, it was just dreadful.
Do you know what? Your school sound like an authoritarian state. I don't remember school like this.
I'm sorry, you're the one who sent me there.
No, my school.
Yeah.
Oh, your school, but my school, you guys sent me there.
Well, in addition to the chocolate crunch, do you know what? I could remember all the puddings.
Crunch.
We used to, when I was in the first year of senior school, we got sat on very early, and they mixed you up with different year groups, so you get to know different, different people from different years. And my mate at the time, a guy called Adrian Hurst, we got on his sister's table. So there's me and Adrian, and there was 8 on the table, and all her friends were like 3rd / 4th year girls, and they were all kind of interested in their figures and looks and stuff like that. So and they used to literally just bring round a big pot of rice pudding.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And because we came along, and I can't remember what we'd had for the main meal, but it came along with the big sort of billy can of rice pudding, and none of the girls wanted any. So me and Adrian had like 8 people's worth of rice pudding.
God, I bet you'd feel ill after
Oh
that.
my goodness, we our stomachs were so extended on it, but we ate it all. It was a challenge, but we got there.
Anyway, in a roundabout way, this is quite topical because they're in the Falkland Islands. Neither of the schools do school meals.
No,
there's no school meals available, so you have to go home for lunch. But did you not? I think there was in your GCSE year, well, certainly the older ones, GCSE year. If you had to do lessons over lunchtime, your revision lessons, you could take a packed lunch in, couldn't you, and sit and eat it? Yeah. But no lunch. Lunch is quite a big thing in the Falklands. You have an hour and a half for the schools. The schools have an hour and a half for lunch, don't they?
Well, and it's very lovely in one way because the whole place shuts down pretty much for lunch. So as everybody goes home.
Quite continental.
So
there was
not all the shops are shut, but a lot of the shops shut.
There are quite a few,
And
and there was talk, I'm sure, a few years ago that someone was going to open a school canteen or something. But I don't know what happened to that because obviously there's not a lot of space, is there?
About having a school uniform that included
there's no school uniform,
bonnet.
Bonnet.
And we automatically just went, no.
A bonnet?
Yeah, they wanted girls to wear. They wanted the boys and girls to wear like some kind of hat.
Yeah, I had to wear a hat. I had to wear a boater. I had cloaks. We were like proper full on Hogwarts at our school.
Yes, but what year was that?
Well, it was in the 80s.
There we go.
Anyway, let's move on from school. And I just miss home. I just want to go home. If you're in lockdown, I'm sure you are finding up what we are finding, which is your hair is just growing all over the place. Mr. Phones, you are really cultivating a bit of a David Bellamy there, aren't you?
I'm beginning to wonder because it I got described as a badger because I've got this white
lovely
streak.
Yeah, salt and
pepper. But it's getting whiter and whiter. So I think if I keep going, I'll probably turn into Father Christmas, to be honest.
Or Keith Barnes, one of the two.
Well, yes, but hey, do you ever see those two together?
You don't, do you?
No.
You don't. One of the benefits of being in lockdown with a hair and makeup student is that she'll actually cut your hair for you. So, Connie...
You ask nicely.
nicely.
And don't judge what I'm doing.
So, Connie cut my hair the other day and you did a very good job, thank you very much. And she also dyed it as well. I attempted to cut your hair and it wasn't until I was about halfway through that I realised I wasn't wearing my glasses. Are you happy with my cut that I did? You were fully giving me instructions and what did you say? It was all about sectioning or something. That's the key to a good haircut.
Yeah, straight sections.
Straight sections. Because we did have a look at some stuff online and on YouTube, and there's a lot of people who put their hair in a ponytail and then just cut that. But it always seems to end in disaster, really.
That's what they normally do if you're like donating your hair.
Okay.
So if you've got really long hair and you want to donate most of it, they'll put it in a ponytail, cut that ponytail so the hair is all together.
Yeah.
And then they'll obviously cut their hair afterwards so it's all the same length and nice.
Nice. So Connie and I are okay, but Steve's looking a bit wild and woolly. Really, aren't you? Let's face it.
I look like I've been on a big adventure for about 3 months.
You do. So let's have a look at some recommendations this week. Connie, do you want to go first? You said you had a
Oh,
recommendation.
yes. It's both on Facebook and Instagram. I don't know what their Facebook thing... not Facebook. I don't know what their Instagram name is, but it's probably the same as Facebook, and it's called History Photographed.
Okay.
And basically they put up random photos from history. And there was one a couple days ago where it was these 4 men, obviously from 4 different generations, all who were part of different wars.
Okay.
All in one photo.
So it's like, it's proper
it's
stuff.
like
it's not
someone
like a
who's-
fakey satire thing.
No, it's actually like
Okay.
real photos, but it's like really random. So it's like, oh, here's a photo from like the early 1900s of these people standing here, and it's like, oh, this is so and so from this year, and it's like, oh, interesting.
I like how I've seen this before where they've done, this is maybe not what you're talking about, where they take a historical photo and then they take a modern day photo of the same place and they blend the two together. Have you seen those?
Oh no.
So like you have the
It's like a
D-Day
big
people.
mashup like Glee.
It's a big mashup like Glee. It's totally like a big mashup like Glee, where you've got
It's
like
exactly-
D-Day soldiers coming on the beach, and then and that's all in black and white. And then as the across the picture, it sort of fades into colour, and then you've got people sitting on that same beach in bikinis and swimwear and sort of enjoying the sun.
But you remember that
So
Glee
not
mashup?
like Glee at all.
Well, no, but you
Oh
remember
my
that Glee
goodness.
mashup where it was Living on a Prayer?
Glee have
And
done
what-
loads of mashups. Don't
And
sing
Start Me Up.
it. Don't sing it because.
I'm not going to sing it. But what was the other one they mashed that up with? 'Cause it was...
Oh my god.
She
It's
just said.
Living on a Prayer and Start Me Up.
There you go.
Yeah, but they've done loads. They did Umbrella and something or other, and
The Umbrella
there's a
and
Duran
Singing in the
Duran.
Rain.
Yeah, there's loads of them. It was quite a big thing, wasn't it? Because they did a lot of mashups in what's that film, where the a cappella singers. Pitch
Oh,
Perfect.
Pitch Perfect.
They did a lot in that as well.
Yeah, but Glee was before that.
Yeah, I was forced into watching Glee by my daughter.
You were forced into
Oh
watching
my
Glee.
goodness, what a lie. How
Steve,
many times did I have you going, Connie, Glee's on, let's watch it?
Yeah, I was only trying to appease you.
Steve, what are you recommending this week?
I am going to recommend a couple of TV series that you can do catch up.
You've done a bit of binge watching, haven't you?
Oh my goodness, yes. So, Killing Eve on season 3.
Yeah.
I love it. Just awesome. Never seen it before. Heard lots and lots about it. Saw that series 2 was coming up. I thought, go on to BBC iPlayer, see what it's all about. Watch the first one, hooked. And it's just brilliant. The other one, which again I'd heard about, but not interested in until I watched the first one, was Normal People. It's a little bit racy, fruity and racy and fruity. But if you've been to university, it will bring back a lot of. It's very nostalgic about life at university, and like sixth form and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it did bring back a lot of fond memories for me.
Okay, all right. I've got a recommendation, but you won't be able to do anything about it until later on the year because, ladies and gentlemen, I have had a reply from Matador and they are willing to publish my book. So see, we're so enthusiastic here. So hopefully we'll be able to have a book launch later on in the year once everything is, if it's safe to do so, of course. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Back in the old Falkland Islands.
It's only taken so many years.
Yeah, quite a few years. I was looking at that actually because I think something came up on my memories on Facebook and I thought, yeah, it's been quite some time since I started that, and yeah, I've started a book and stuff like that. It's taken a long time to get this far. But anyway, have a look at me. I'm on Twitter as well. Have a look at Rita_Seagull. And follow me there. I am going to keep that name, I've decided. I am going to write under that name.
Okay.
So have a look at that and give me a follow, please. That would be marvellous. So anyway, we have now finished our tea and come to the end, and you're watching, what's this called you've got on the TV? Taboo.
That's my next binge watch.
It's your next binge watch. I'm going to watch The Great British Sewing Bee. Let's all praise this online, on-demand, TV stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, I went and saw it at cinema twice because it's such a brilliant film.
Yeah.
The Gentleman.
Yeah, well, I saw Emma 3 times, so, you know.
Yeah. But,
3 times?
Yeah.
I know.
It's really,
I
I
fell
really
asleep
liked
in it
it.
once. So there you go.
Yeah, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, but The Gentleman is, no word of a lie, the best film I have seen, possibly ever, but certainly in the last 10 years.
And now available on DVD.
Now available on DVD.
Yeah. Okay, so
Do
listen.
you remember The Avengers? Just saying.
Is that your favourite film, The Avengers?
No, it's Grease. But, like,
That was good.
that was made
Yeah.
years ago. But, do you remember The Avengers? Do you remember when they all came back in those, like, hot, circle things and they're like, oh, look, we're from the past. And we're going to kill you.
Spoiler alert for our listener.
Sorry.
You know.
Well, if you haven't
No.
watched it by now, you should have.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You've said that, and that's the last one, isn't it? And we were in the Cayman Islands when we watched that, didn't we? And it was 3.5 hours long. It was like a mammoth film.
That was an epic, but they were really
watched
comfortable
it
seats.
Yeah.
I watched it here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, I just remember that film and thinking, that's even longer than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Lord of the
Yes,
Rings
but
is good,
Lord of the-
epic.
Like Lord of Rings.
Yes, they won't hear you. Listener can't hear you if you whisper.
Okay. Also, I'm doing hand gestures.
She's doing
that
hand
Avengers
gestures.
is higher than Lord
For the
of the Rings.
benefit of the tape, she's ranking those two
Massive opinion,
films.
but there you go.
Anyway, let's leave it there. Listener, have a look at the FITV Facebook page. Oh, and also have a look at Falkland Rocks Facebook page as well. It is a private group, so you have to ask to join it. We've got some painted rocks. That's something you could be doing in lockdown right now. Get your paints out and paint some rocks. But have a look at the FITV Facebook page. At the moment, if you go to our website, fitv.co.fk, you'll be able to watch the programmes without the paywall up at the moment. That may change. You might be the listener might be listening to this in like 10 years' time. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows?
I must admit, if I was back in the Falklands now, I would be having a go at those Airfix models I've had in there.
Thank goodness, yeah.
For,
That's what we're going to do for the 2 weeks we're in quarantine when we actually get back.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Anyway, join us next week. Thanks, listener. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.